Welcome back, everybody. Join me in the beautiful city of Bath, just down the road from where we've moved to. And Derek, who is on my street twin in front of us, reached out to me and said he was local and he just picked up his brand new Moto Guzzi V7 Centenario as well, the beautiful green, silver and brown paint job. And he said if you want to come and take it for a spin, you're more than welcome, which is so kind of him. And I've been dying to get on one of these. You know, I love the Moto Guzzi V7 already, and I felt that you know, it's a great bike but perhaps a little underpowered. And then for this year they've gone and added the 850 version of their transverse V-twin that originated from the V9 and the V85 TT adventure bike. So it's gone way up in terms of power. And then I just love this paint job. It looks absolutely cracking. So this for me is right up there with the best retros now. I think it's far more competitive with the Triumphs in terms of power and spec and how it rides. And the price is not bad either. I think the problem was before that the Enfields offer such good value for money that if you're going to charge a couple of grand more, you need to offer something in terms of power or, you know, quality of the components. And look, to be fair, this V7 has always had that distinctive Moto Guzzi-ness about it. You're not going to get a transverse V-twin in any other bike. And then of course you've got a shaft drive as well, and it just adds up to something that it certainly has its charm, but I don't think you can rely on that forever to sell bikes. And so it's great that they've brought the spec up. Anyway, it's so nice to be back in Bath. I haven't managed to visit particularly often since we moved out this way, but I used to work here a couple of days a week for a couple of years and get the train over from London and stay over. And it's one of my favourite cities in the UK in terms of just, you know, architecture and the layout of it, because it's so hilly. You just get these spectacular views over the city, and it's all this sandstone type beautiful housing, plenty to see. So Derek's going to lead us on a little tour here around the city centre, and then we'll head out on a country road for a bit, see what this new 850 V-twin is like when you can stretch its legs a little, although I think it's still running in, so I'm not going to hammer somebody else's bike when they've only just got it. And then I'll pull over somewhere and shoot a bit of a review for the other channel. Look at this though, wowee, what a place to live. You lucky people. Just talking to Derek there about the exhaust on this, I think that's going to be one of his first changes. The street twin sounds so good with those Vance and Hines, and I think yeah, this bike would really benefit from just something a little throatier. It doesn't necessarily need to be super loud. I've still got the catalyzer in my street twin, which keeps the volume levels reasonable, but it does sound a little stifled, the Moto Guzzi. I mean, it's not necessarily their fault. Euro 5 is so restrictive in terms of how much noise you can make now, but there's a little bit there, isn't there? Woo! Maybe we'll get more of that sound when we get out on the open road. It's mainly 20 limits around here. Definitely worth a visit on your bike, Bath, if you're nearby, because it's one of those places that is pretty easy to get into, especially by motorcycle. Once you come off the M4, you just take an A road for 10 minutes down to Bath, and then there's a bus lane pretty much all the way into the city centre, which is open to use by motorcycles. So honestly, it's a cinch to get in, and there are plenty of good routes nearby as well. I think this is called Royal Crescent. A little bit bumpy, and I feel sorry for Derek right now because I've got a fairly firm saddle on my street twin, and I also changed the springs in the fork and the shocks to the Hagen upgrades, which I did to add a bit of stiffness because I didn't like how it wallowed through the turns a bit with the standard suspension. So he's probably feeling that a bit on these cobbles. Sorry about that. We're going back again now. Suckers for punishment. I mean, both of these bikes are a perfectly acceptable choice for this kind of city riding. They both make plenty of torque, low down, and that's what you want, that drive away from the line without having to rev them. And also, both very classy looking machines.
Blocked it off. There was a guy behind the van telling us to come round.
Shall we just head out of town then? Yeah, perfect. Now there are certainly a couple of areas in which I think the V7 has the edge on the Street Twin. A big one would be the fuel tank. It's 21 litres, I think, which is going to give it serious range for this genre of bike. It's not going to be a first choice for touring or long distance work, of course, but even for commuting in around the city and doing a few weekend rides and that kind of thing, it's nice not to have to fill up very often, especially if you're using it to get to work and back and you want to be on time. Sometimes you're running a bit late and then you're low on fuel and you think, I could do without this today. So obviously you're going to get that a little less frequently on this bike. And also the shaft drive and the fact you don't have to lube and clean and maintain the chain, you know, that's a big plus for me for a practical but stylish commuter. Now my Street Twin is the first generation, and after that in the second gen and now the third, they've updated the brakes with a 4-pot Brembo that's probably on a par with this bike, but certainly the braking power on this is much better than the first gen Street Twin. That's not really a fair comparison in 2021, but it's certainly something I noticed getting on it. And I also think the V7 has a slightly better or lower weight. It's not night and day, but you can feel it does feel a little bit more nimble on its feet perhaps. There are still plenty of reasons to buy a Street Twin though. I mean, the big one for me is the engine. I just love that 900cc version of the Bonneville Parallel Twin. It's just a really nice bike to ride. It's quite smooth for a 900cc twin, and it just has a nice note to it and a nice torquiness. And I think also the bike is just one of those that is greater, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. It's one that I just jumped on and test rode a few years back, and I just thought, oh, this is just a brilliant little thing. And the fact that I've held on to it for so long is testament to just how much I like it. Definitely would benefit from a 6th gear on the motorway, I think, and the V7 has that, and so it does feel a little more relaxed. It doesn't feel as stressed as the Street Twin at 70, but it's fine, you know, it'll still do 70 or 80. It just starts to sing a bit. There are some days where I'm just so grateful I chopped in the desk job to do this as a career. And this, you know, this sort of riding in this weather, now we're into summer, on 2 bikes that are just right up my street. What could be better? I would say that some of the roads around here, in terms of the surfaces and the big sweeping bends like this, are on a par with South Wales, where I do a lot of my videos, but the big difference is that it's just, I think it's more dense with population around here, and so the roads are just that bit busier, and they take a little bit of the fun out of the sensation of powering through a bend when there's a row of 10 cars up ahead. Whereas South Wales, I think there are more remote parts of it that you can get to quickly, and so you can push the bike a bit more, and also it's nice for filming to have those quiet spots over there. But we'll see where we get to today. Derek has a place in mind, so it's always nice to have a decent location that does a bike like this justice, you know? I don't want to be reviewing this on some grotty car park, because it's a piece of fine Italian design. Wowee, that's some house. Oh, there's perfect. I think, probably. Thanks for joining, everybody. See you next time.